My name is Jane Wiley. I'm a member of the Natural Resources Board, and there are 7 of us on the board. One of the things, the major thing that we want to do with our 5 listening sessions is to make this process as transparent as we can. And I think we're off to a good start. I think if you've had a chance to talk with the DNR staff and you have your maps of the particular parks and the areas that you're interested in, you can see that the staff did an amazing amount of work in a very small amount of time. The other thing I'd like to say is that Act 168 is a state law. In other words, as much as you might like to say, we don't like this idea at all, don't do it, it's not going to make any difference. It's a state law, and obviously DNR and the Natural Resources Board must implement state laws. And so please don't shoot the messengers, because if you're concerned about this as a state law, the people you need to talk to are your legislators. We want to do what we can to make this law that we must in fact implement as useful and as good as we can possibly make for all the users of state parks in the state of Wisconsin. We're committed to hearing what you have to say, and we've got a staff member over here who's taking copious notes on this, and of course, as board members, we're going to be listening. And in all 5 of our board sessions, we are going to have at least 2 Natural Resources Board members present, and some we will probably have at least 1 or 2 more. So we're doing as much as we can so that we can get a reasonable law, reasonable rules for the law enacted when this takes place, again, by state law on the 1st of January of 2013. So, thank you very much for your attention, and we truly appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
We thought that it might be appropriate in each one of the sessions to just give you an overview again, kind of a review if you've learned about some of these issues, or it might be a little bit brand new for some others, but to go over what our recommendation is to the Natural Resources Board. And again, as Jane said, this is the implementation of an existing law. So it starts on January 1st, and kind of a little bit of preliminary for 2012, because the law isn't in place yet for parks. All the hunting that exists in parks will remain as it has been for the last number of years. And trapping is not allowed for this season. It will change again at the start of the first of the year. So, Joe, if you want to do this here. Great. So this is the one slide that might be difficult for folks in the back to read, but this is an overview of State Statute 29089, and basically it says that state parks shall be open to hunting, fishing, and trapping for folks that have the appropriate approvals, that's the appropriate licenses. Basically it says that parks are open unless closed, and we'll talk about that in just a second. In the past, parks were closed unless open. State parks in the last number of years have opened up some properties, particularly for deer hunting and the first 3 seasons of turkey hunting. We have a very small number of parks that have a little bit of small game hunting in them as well. Those were opened up by administrative rule. There was a couple of types of hunting that were not allowed in state parks, and trapping, as I mentioned before, was not allowed before. So parks are open unless closed, and so our task as a department was to turn around, analyze parks. How can we offer these type of activities without impinging on the activities of the other users in state parks? And so we asked for, and the legislature saw fit to allow the department to consider closing designated use areas. I'll get into that in a little bit. Within 100 yards of a designated use area. The Natural Resources Board, who are our policy approvers, have more authority than that. They can close a portion or all of a state park for one of 2 reasons, either to protect a unique plant or animal community or for the protection of public safety. So first we wanted to kind of ground you that what is a state park? The Wisconsin State Park System isn't just state parks. We have other state park other properties in the system. This law pertains to what are state parks, and those are our named state parks like Devil's Lake and Council Grounds and those types of properties. Named state trails that are state-owned, basically. The Ice Age National Scenic Trail, state Ice Age Trail areas, which are state-owned properties. The Ice Age Trail Alliance, which is a nonprofit volunteer group, has some real estate property, both easements and ownership as well as the National Park Service has one property. Those properties are not included in this law, but state-owned property that were purchased for state ice trail areas are state parks. They were included. We have a small number of properties in the North Country Scenic Trail, which is in the northern third of the state as well. What is not included in our part of our system are state recreation area, natural areas, and southern state forest, wildlife areas, which we have a couple of those. They're not in our program, but some of them are attached to our state park. Those are not included either. Give you just a real quick overview of what is a designated use area. It sort of is that common sense, those areas, those facilities in state parks that were built to welcome visitors for a variety of recreational experiences. So these are pictures at different parts of some variety of designated use areas. Towers, campsites, marinas, horse trails, designated horse trails that are developed and maintained for that are examples. We have a variety of other things like bike trails and some of our use area, our offices where the public is invited in for our entrance stations, picnic areas, those kinds of things. Real quick overview. This is how the recreation managers in the state park system manage use. And we have a sort of a variety of options here. We can manage by separation of activities by time, sometimes by location. And we've done that in the past. We don't have often like mountain bikes, trails on top of horseshoes. This is the sort of the overview of the department's recommendation. For the most part, the system is asking, going to ask the Natural Resources Board, again, depending on your comments and others at public listening sessions, to consider closing all the state parks from the Friday before Memorial Day through October 14th. And we're very specific in picking those times. As you know, that the Memorial Day for most of us is the kickoff to the summer. It's actually one of our very busiest times in the park year. The summer is very busy as well. But that holiday weekend sort of kicks it off. We have a lot of use in the early part of the fall because of fall color, a lot of race events out in our trails, those kinds of things. And this date was picked after Columbus Day weekend, which is sort of the peak of fall color and the peak of our fall use for many of our properties. So we're suggesting in our recommendation, again, dependent on comments, that from October 15th through that portion of the winter and spring up until the Thursday before Memorial Day, that be open for hunting and trapping in the areas of the park that we'll go through that we are recommending to be open. As it relates to daily hours, state parks have always been closed from 11 p.m. until 6 a.m. The only people that can be in a state park during that time are registered campers and people that come in for fishing prior to 11 o'clock. They can stay as long as they like if they're actively fishing. So our suggestion for hunting is that there is 11 p.m. closure because of public security, in both infrastructure security, people in the campgrounds, and then open again for those activities, hunting and trapping, an hour before the opening time of, if there is a opening time for that season, like if turkey hunting opens at 5, a turkey hunter could come in under this recommendation an hour before to set up. If there is no seasonal framework, and there are a couple of hunting activities in which that's the case, predator hunting is one of those. Our suggestion is, recommendation is to keep the 11 o'clock closure and allow those activities to start to come into the park 1 hour before sunrise. Trapping is pretty much the same, but just slightly different. The same framework, Friday before Memorial Day through October 14th, be closed for all the entire park system, and open on the October 15th, and close at 11 p.m. and start again each day 1 hour before the 4 a.m. daily opening of trapping. The only exception to, to this is that, and you'll see in our maps, if you have them in your hand or what I'm going to show, that we're trying to open up some blocks of land in the state park. It seems to be that would probably be most appropriate because, one, the public will know where they can go and where they can't go. And but for trapping, our recommendation is that all trapping be done at least 100 yards away from any designated use area or any designated trail.
Okay, I'm here representing our neighborhood, the area of Slack Road and Hillcrest Drive in the township of West Point, Columbia County. I'm here because I'm concerned with the protection of public safety. And as you can see in the map, the triangle here is a DNR landlocked piece of land. And it doesn't indicate it there, but there are about 8 houses right in that vicinity, right around this area that's landlocked. And if that's open for public hunting, I believe that's way too close to private property. And what I understand, a rifle bolt will carry up to 2 miles. So I'm very concerned about the safety of our children and pets in that area.
If you look at the entire size of that, to open that to hunting does not really make a whole lot of sense to us who live there and who have concern for our safety of ourselves, children, pets, and these are public roads. So it could conceivably be a rifle shot doesn't stop at 300 yards. Everybody knows that. It keeps on going. And the amount of land that's here available for hunting, is it really worth the risk of what could potentially be a very dangerous situation? And it only takes one time. And I'm a hunter. I have nothing against hunting, believe me. And I applaud the department for trying to open lands to allow more hunting land available to people. But I think any ethical hunter, the first thing they will tell you is safety first. And this, to us, is really not safety first. There are 3 residences right here. This is not a very far distance. And for somebody to take a shot, wound an animal, they're going to end up trying to track it onto public land, maybe take another shot, and how oftentimes does that happen when somebody does something in a very confined area like that? So thank you very much for your attention, and we would appreciate due consideration to keeping this area closed. Thank you.
I walk and hike that trail every morning. I do the Gibraltar segment where go up around and go climb up to the top of the ridge and then come back down on the backside. The thing that was really confusing to me when I saw the proposal is why that there wasn't at least 100 yards placed on the other side of this back trail. Because that trail is used just as much as the main trail because it's a much easier trail as far as going up that ridge. A lot of elderly plus children use that.
I'm a very strong supporter of the park. I'm the vice president of the Friends of New Brunswick State Park, and I'm the president of the State Friends of Wisconsin State Parks. Those organizations are going to send written comments to you, but I'm here to speak on behalf of myself for this park. I also don't have a problem with hunting. I come from a hunting family, trapping family, lots of interesting things in the freezer. But what I wanted to let you know is what's not on this map is that all along this side of our houses, up above there is a health clinic. Just where it says Glarus is the high school, and just above where it says Woods a little bit is the elementary school. Over here's the brewery, if anybody's wondering. So that's kind of a populated area. On this part of the park, it's farm fields, it's quarry, it's more farm fields. What I would like to see is the northern part, what's north of County and close to hunting, because this Bison Trail is one of the most heavily used trails in the park. People connect from that, from where the health clinic is, and take their daily walks and hikes and snowshoes. And the cross-country team runs through there and runs on the Haven Ridge Trail. So that's very heavily used park. The south part is not, and the south part is south-facing. As a safety concern, there's really good backdrops for hunting that way that wouldn't involve any of the heavily used areas. So I know whoever put the map together didn't really consult with the friends groups, but that's kind of where we see the heavy use and where we would like to see it closed.
Where is the hospital?
It's a health clinic, and it's just right, this is County Highway H at the top, and it's right on the other side of that.
Oh, I see.
And there's a walking trail from the village, because that's village boundary, right at that highway. So it adjoins the village boundary. And, yeah, thank you. Right here is Highway H, and the village's boundaries right there. And there's a walking trail, so people walk through town and then connect up here and take the Bison Trail. And we work really hard to make that accessible for people. We have a self-guided interpretive trail, we have signs, we have kiosks here. We want people to come in. We've invited the schools to come there, incorporated into their curriculum. And so we worry that people won't come. And it would be very easy for people coming from Illinois, who come here, to know south of this highway is hunting and north is not.
I'm David Michelson, and I'm speaking in support of the DNR staff's recommendations of having a 200-yard buffer around the Ice Age Trail, wherever the Ice Age Trail is on state land. As a member of the Ice Age Trail Alliance Board, and as an author of a book on the geology of the Ice Age Trail, I've been on lots of the Ice Age Trail around the state, and I think it's important that the board recognize that that's a very important aspect of recreation in the state. I agree that hunting and well, hunting especially, but trapping also, is an important form of recreation. But hiking is a very important one also, and that trail brings in people from out of state, as well as hikers in state. And I just think it's important that at least people have the perception that they can safely hike on the Ice Age Trail throughout the fall. A lot of people do hike, or cross-country ski and snowshoe in winter. I think that's very important. Thank you.
I think that the way that the law came about is a little bit disappointing. I think it was probably seen as a revenue neutral measure. That's probably not the case. I know at minimum there's a lot of signs prohibiting hunting that are going to have to be removed. New signs have to go up. Somebody has to enforce the boundaries. And there's got to be a whole lot of education because I know there's not enough signs for everywhere. And I think that those are all going to cost money that we hadn't thought about. I definitely appreciate the time limits that are being considered here. I would say they maybe don't go quite far enough. The outdoor recreation season, you know, everybody in Madison thinks the world revolves around Dane County, but the Dane County Farmers Market runs from, you know, April 12th to November 7th, and it seems to me that that's a better approximation of the outdoor recreation season in Wisconsin. I'm not familiar with all of Wisconsin state parks, and I imagine that some are more appropriate for hunting than others. The two parks that are sort of nearest and dearest to me are Devil's Lake State Park and Rock Island State Park. And I think that both of those are sort of inappropriate examples of hunting territory. I have an 8-month-old son who has been to Devil's Lake every month of his life, and we'd like to continue that until he's 30 or 40 years old. And unfortunately, the sort of winter coverall we received as a gift is a little caribou outfit. Now I'm wishing it had been maybe a pumpkin outfit if we're going to be walking around in areas that are. But I know a lot of people here are here to speak about Devil's Lake. Rock Island State Park is it's a small island, it's a beautiful area. The hike around the perimeter of the island is 6 miles. So I've only come to learn about rifle distances in the last half an hour, but it seems to me as though a rifle shot could go clear across the entire island. The trails crisscross the island, and every time I'm there, I see little kids sort of running around alone because it is such a small park. It's a small island. The water around it is very shallow, and maybe they're not there in November, but there's got to be. I think there has to be more thought to, you know, leftover ammunition or shotgun shells or dip containers or some of the other leavings. So I'm glad that the maps were considered one at a time, but I wish that maybe, if not the rangers or the public, but maybe we look back at each map in particular and get more feedback from users or rangers that are best familiar with the uses. Thank you.
So you're going to see, not many people, 75 to 100 people run through that trail during the course of the day. It's heavily used. It's not a good place for hunting.
Could you just kind of point out which one that is?
Okay, well, you're giving the trails run, in this case, pretty much through the whole park. So the main area where,
But
and this
the
is...
major one you're talking about.
Okay, the one I'm talking about here, you get a lot of traffic on John Minks, a lot of traffic on Flint Rock, but then there's still, even here, like think about the 100-yard rule, okay? So, well, wait, the 100-yard rule, does that apply to these trails or not? No, these are all open areas, right? So, and even if you were to try and impose it, where would you put it? Because the fact of the matter is, you've got trail on top of trail on top of trail, and they're all actively used. These are used frequently, and these are groomed by state rangers on, with fees paid for by skiers. In my mind, it just does not make sense to try and have hunting there at the exact same time.
Are you suggesting then that everything be closed to only during the winter months? Yes.
I would say anytime there's snow on the ground, and I know that's a hard thing to enforce, but that would be the ideal, right? Now, the rest of the time, you still have hikers and things, and that creates a whole separate set of issues. And, my preference would be, but we're talking about trails that are actually groomed and maintained, and I just think that it doesn't make sense to have hunting there and skiing both at the same time.
Good evening. My name is Gary Warner. I am a longtime member of the Ice Age Trail Alliance and also a volunteer more than 3 decades. Thank you for the opportunity for this chance to comment on these proposed rules. As several people have already mentioned, and I can say from my experience as out on the Ice Age Trails about every weekend doing volunteer work, the key times of the year for people to be out hiking are the spring and the fall. Not midsummer may be the key time in the state parks where you have water-based recreation, but midsummer is not the key hiking time. It's spring when people want to get out because they've been indoors all winter long, many of them, or it's the fall. So I suggest that, strongly urge you to reconsider the time, the season opening, push it back to November 1st at least in the fall, and push it and close it then about April 1st in the spring. I'm also sympathetic to the people who have talked about the winter use. And I was curious to see much of the winter cross-country ski trails at Devil's Lake State Park seem to be in the open hunting area with no buffer around them. I do support the 200-yard buffer for the Ice Age Trail, but loops, as was pointed out with the Gibraltar area, the loop trails are just as important as the designated Ice Age Trail in that system and should be given the same protection. As a volunteer, I have to take a little bit of umbrage with the staff of the Alliance who have cavalierly said that they would post signs. I think that the issue of what a 100-yard buffer is going to be a serious management problem in many areas. I don't think we as the volunteers maintaining the trail should bear that responsibility. I think the state of Wisconsin should pay for it and should provide the staff to do it. And if that's the cost of doing business, maybe it's not worth it to keep all of these areas open. Lastly, and I'll use the Gibraltar picture as an example, on many of the maps that I've looked at, there are little tiny pieces of land that fall outside that 200-yard buffer and would be open that make no sense from a management standpoint to open, particularly if you're going to sign them. You would have to put more signs in areas. It would make much more sense to close the whole area rather than just follow slavishly a 200-foot contour line around the trail.
Thank you for being here and for listening to all of us. My name is Kate, and I'm an outdoor enthusiast, and like a lot of people here, I love the Wisconsin State Parks. I think they are the best in the nation, and I'm an avid user, hiker, skier, swimmer. I'm also one of those people who doesn't see the separation between species. So when I see an animal murdered, that's how I take it. I also see, but let me just say, I do, if somebody's going to eat meat, I respect a trained hunter going and gathering that meat out of the woods as opposed to factory farming. I think it's much more humane to have a hunter. I think there's a huge need to delineate between trapping and hunting. A lot of people in Wisconsin are pro-hunting, but they see trapping as animal cruelty. There's also different ramifications for the two things. With hunting, you have bullets. With trapping, you have something that's left on the ground that could potentially harm children, well, could harm anybody or pets. I also think, thank you, that you need to be concerned about the civil lawsuits because an injury or a murder of a person or a child will occur. It's a question of when, not if. I myself was shot at riding a horse in the city limits during deer hunting season in northern Wisconsin and survived it. My father was a veterinarian in northern Wisconsin for 37 years. During hunting season, it was very common to have between 15 and 20 animals rushed in for emergencies due to trapping primarily. And several of those animals did not survive. Me, as a person who has repeatedly bought annual passes to the Wisconsin state parks, I'm seriously considering not doing that. I do not want to go to any park where I see an animal being murdered. I do not want to put my own life at risk while I'm riding my bike or skiing or stepping on something when I get out of the water from swimming, getting some type of injury. And lastly, I'd like to say that, like us, animals have pain receptors, emotions, and social bonds. The University of Wisconsin has, the University of Washington states that 80% of people who will abuse an animal will abuse a child. I would ask you to really look at trapping, do everything you can to minimize trapping, and stop teaching abuse.
A very inherently dangerous situation and trying to make it safe. And I think it's really a legal fiction what you're trying to accomplish here. I think they're mutually incompatible uses, especially at a park like Devil's Lake. I think the preceding speaker was correct. It's really a question of when someone's going to get killed, not really if. To echo another speaker, a lot of these parks, Devil's Lake in particular, gets a lot of heavy use in fall and winter. I'm an avid hiker. In the winter, late fall, rock climbing. Devil's Lake is a huge rock climbing destination. I know other people here to speak on that, so I don't want to steal their thunder. But on a personal note, I can tell you folks that I think this area should be closed to hunting. This is a very popular trail that leads to this trail, which is also very popular in the climbing community. The same would be true for this area right here. This trail right here is commonly used throughout the year, late fall, winter, by the climbing community. So I think this entire area should be closed to climbing, closed to hunting because of the climbing community. I would echo the sentiments expressed by other speakers. A high-powered rifle is going to travel a long distance. It's just a question of when someone is going to get injured. I think if you're going to do this also, you need to consider the liability aspect. I think if you're going to allow people to hunt or trap, you need to force them to register. When an injury occurs, you want to know who did it. You want to know where they live. You want to be able to hold the person responsible. When you get caught in a trap, if a person's allowed to set a trap, you should require them to put some sort of tag on the trap so you know who they are, where they live, what their phone number is. It can't just be a trap just sitting there. The same thing for hunters. I think, especially at Devil's Lake, they should register at the office. You want to know who they are, their address, a contact. I would want to know where in the park they're hunting so when an injury occurs, you can try to track it down as best you can. I'd want to know what sort of weapon they're using. There's a huge difference between a high-powered rifle, a shotgun, and a bow.
First thing I'd like to say is, I'm glad I'm not in your shoes. I think the Senate did a very poor job when they passed this bill, not giving the flexibility to the committee. I was here to support the bill and brought a lot of these points up. And the comment made by one of the senators was, this bill needs a lot of work. Unfortunately, those senators, 2 or 3 of them were up for re-election and the bill did not get the work. So what we've got now, it's all or nothing that these people are faced with. All hunting, all fishing, all trapping. They can't distinguish between rifle hunting and bow hunting, and they've got a bucket of worms. And I think that it's just a damn shame. Now, that being said, the area that I live in is, I don't know how to turn it, is right here. This area, there is a home. There's a home. This is commercial. This is a jelly factory, Slacks, Jams, and Jellies. Right here, my neighbor lives. His swimming pool is 50 feet from the edge of this area. This is a commercial subdivision. This is all the commercial single-family homes. I have a petition that's been filed with the DNR board of 60 of the family members, all people that live in the area, asking that this not be open for hunting for public safety. I've hunted in Alaska 11 trips. I've hunted in South America. I have a great trophy room. There's a time and a place for everything. I have 2 beautiful black Labradors. Right here is my mailbox. This is my private road to my house. Right here we can set a trap 60 feet from my mailbox. My neighbor cannot let his dog out the front door because there can be traps set within 40 yards of his back door. This is insane. Now, let's take it a step further. This property is being used extensively, much more than what I would have thought. We see school buses come into the parking lot with children. Generally, the trail that's used is this one because it's much gentler. This is also a road which has to be left in for fire protection. If we take and put a 200-yard or a 100-yard buffer right along here, there's almost nothing left. We have a 300-foot barrier for rifle hunting. There's another home. This is zoned residential, which is going to be put right here. All of this is, there's houses all along this road. The only spot that can be left open is here and a little bit up here. This piece of property should be closed to hunting at this point in time. I'm a hunter. I've been fighting this battle for a long time, and if the board had more flexibility, I think there would be other solutions. But this is used by people with their dogs. They go in here on skis, cross-country skis. I was in here with my 2 labs on Christmas Eve, and there were people hiking the trail on Christmas Eve. If we open this to trapping, the first thing that's going to get trapped is somebody's dog. It doesn't make sense. If you people had the flexibility, I think we could make some other suggestions. I've left a written proposal and a copy of the petition. I filed it with the DNR board, and I gave Preston a copy with a written letter. And again, all the people that have signed this petition are people that own property adjoining this. Again, this will go on. This is there are homes all along here. There's home here. There's one going to be built right here. There are 20 or 30 homes here. There are homes up in here. There's another subdivision here. I mean, this is a rural residential area, and it doesn't lead itself. This trail has to be included. And if it's included and we put the buffer, there's nothing left. It's just nothing there. So thank you again. I appreciate your time.
Echoing previous speakers, I'm Greg Ferguson, speaking for myself, hiker, biker, snowshoer, skier. I think we're dealing with a bad law. I don't envy the people up here. Thank you for listening to us. Opposed to opening areas that are currently used by many other Wisconsin state residents to hunting. I think if we do open a lot of these places that we've talked about and we're going to talk about, we're going to drive other park users out of the park. So instead of having hikers or cross-country skiers on the Pleasure Valley Trail, and instead of having snowshoers on the Overload Trail, you might have hunters or trappers. So I don't view that as a win-win. I view that as a loss and maybe a gain for a hunter or two. But I would please ask that we do not allow hunting in Blue Mountain State Park, and in particular in this area here. And of course the groomed Nordic Trail that goes along this section here. You've got a groomed Nordic Trail right through here. You've got a mountain bike trail through here. I was mountain biking yesterday. It's certainly after October 15th, and I intend to continue mountain biking until the snow flies. And then I'll probably be snowshoeing on this trail right here. So mountain biking for now, hiking for now, and then when the snow flies, I plan to be skiing there, plan to be snowshoeing there. If there's hunting there, I will not be going there. I don't know if I'll buy a state pass, because if that is taken away, that kind of place, this kind of place over here, I guess I'll be going to the UP more often. So I'd rather stay here, I'd rather stay in Wisconsin. I'd rather spend my money in Mount Horeb after snowshoeing than going to Michigan and spending my money there. So please do not open places like this in particular, and ones that other people have enumerated. And if you do open areas, please certainly don't do it as early as October 15th, do it later. November 15th would be the earliest, I would ask. And certainly, I'm hiking and biking before the end of May. So certainly the ending period too is far too long as far as I'm concerned. So please all thank you.
My name is George Meyer, Madison, Wisconsin, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Wildlife Federation, and we appreciate this opportunity to be here tonight. The Federation has 186 hunting, fishing, trapping, and forestry related affiliate organizations, and we appreciate you holding these hearings throughout the state. The Department of Natural Resources Board has been given a very difficult assignment by the legislature to implement the requirements of Act 168 regarding hunting, fishing, and trapping in state parks and along state and federal trails. We understand and support the requirements of the legislation requiring the department to close areas on those lands if necessary to protect public safety and for unique plant and animal species. Public safety is paramount in the minds of hunters and anglers in the state. We believe that, in fact, the department staff has had a monumental task to do and has come up with some generally good guidelines to, in fact, help the board in making its decision to close and open certain areas. And I'm very familiar with the state park system. I've been in every one. I'm just as avid park user as I am a hunter. They all vary. You've seen some examples tonight. And we think reviewing each of these maps and light of the testimony you're going to get over the next 5 days makes sense. As an example, you've seen some areas that after you put the designated areas are very small for hunting with high caliber weapons, big game hunting. So those may be areas you look at. There's also, you're getting some of the sub-trails which are linked to larger trails, maybe heavy use areas. But as you make these fine-tuning decisions, it shouldn't be just a no-go or go situation, no hunting or trapping, or hunting and trapping. And I think one of the earlier gentlemen mentioned, there are areas where, because of their size, high caliber weapons for big game hunting shouldn't be used, but clearly you could use small shots or shotguns for pheasant hunting or turkey hunting or something like that without the safety concerns that have been raised. In addition, archery hunting would be very appropriate in those situations, and clearly trapping in those situations would still be very usable. I think there's been excellent testimony, and we will get more of this information out to our members, and so you have more individual comments. But I think you're off to a good start, and this process is an excellent one. You've had many different sides discussing tonight, and we applaud your efforts in fine-tuning these maps. Thank you.
Are you suggesting that perhaps the board and the staff can moderate the kinds of hunting weapons?
Sure.
Okay.
It's been based mainly so far on time, has been your distinction between conflict of uses. And that's a good rough cut, but in some areas it may also be type of hunting that it may be the fine tuning that would be appropriate. And this is not easy because of the great difference in state parks, but thank you for what you're doing.
I'm just going to give you a few little additions to that. We're very concerned about this area here. I live right about here. And over the period of time when we submitted, I know to the board, our list of issues and concerns about the property, because it wasn't clear that this was even closed. Last year, this was all open, and right now it's actually posted closed. And that's because the DNR came out specially to close it. I was right about here, and there was somebody looking to hunt, and they were looking to decide if they should hunt here, even though it wasn't open to hunting. Argued with me, followed me to my mailbox right about here, and insisted that they could go in there and hunt. Now, if you look at that little tiny piece of property, they were already behind. They were on my property looking to put up a tree stand. Well, that didn't make me very comfortable. The other day, one of the other people that's here, who has a 7-month-old baby, something similar happened, and he found somebody here doing the exact same thing. Well, you know, if that person decided to practice some target shooting, which they have done, our houses are here. You know how far a bullet goes. And on this piece of land, on this hill, we've had bullets through windows, we've had bullets through trees. Flax Jellies is there. They've had bullets in their trees. There's a lot of people that go back and forth on Hillcrest and Slacks. We don't want somebody killed there. There's a lot of children that use this property, in particular this trail, unattended, because it's like their backyard. I really don't think that they're going to know the difference, whether you put a buffer zone or not, that they can walk here and not here. So we're concerned about that. If you do put a buffer here, there's a little tiny piece of property. We're talking 10 acres. This entire piece of property is 78 acres. This little piece of property is 7. So really you have to ask yourself, does it make sense? Is it really worth it? Do you want to take somebody's life for this many acres? I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. This weekend, a little 6-year-old girl took her 2-year-old dog on a trail in Minnesota, and it got caught in a trap. Just want to start with that. This bill is such a betrayal to all of us citizens who you are also supposed to represent, who love nature and have believed that our parks would be a safe place to enjoy nature with our families and our pets. Our parks are a treasure to us all, and we want to see our wildlife alive, not terrified and struggling to free themselves from barbaric traps. How could this board, how could the state allow 8,000 trappers, 1,000th of 1% of Wisconsin citizens to trap in our parks where we want to feel safe? I would like to see this bill completely repealed. While my major focus is against trapping, and the immense suffering it involves, I don't believe either trapping or hunting should be allowed in a park. We have a right to feel safe, and trapping is an unknown horror that does not belong in the parks. What have we evolved to as human beings that we actually guarantee the right for a few to do so much harm to animals and psychological terror to the rest of us? You don't think that the thought of what is being allowed doesn't terrify the rest of us? The public avoids the subject because it can't even stand to imagine the torture. And the DNR doesn't even feel ashamed to call it a recreational activity. Stop claiming that trapping manages population and controls diseases, when our own overpopulation and urban sprawl into natural wildlife areas are many of the real reasons for problems with wildlife. There are other methods to deal with wildlife trapping than trapping. The real reason for trapping is the fur trade. Please don't put the safety of our pets, families, and any living being in the outdoors at risk. Traps are barbaric and should just plain be banned, and our county and state parks should be free from cruelty. This bill should never have been passed and should be repealed. All life is precious. I want to end with a quote from Charles Darwin from his 1863 essay called Trapping Agony. I know of no sight more sorrowful than that of these unoffending animals as they are seen in the torture grip of these traps. Few men could endure to watch for 5 minutes an animal struggling in a trap with a torn limb. Some will wonder how such cruelty can have been permitted to continue in these days of civilization, and that's in 1863. Thank you.
Thank you.